parents overprotective now? And is that causing a problem with this hopelessness?
I think certainly there's some, one of the things I'll say is there's some well-meaning parents with great intentions that are unknowingly, for lack of a better description, sabotaging their children in certain areas. The biggest area that I have seen, or the greatest harm causes, would be in youth sports. I think our youth sports culture in this country is, I can't speak for all of them, there's some great programs and great people, but for the most part, what I've seen is the youth sports culture is upside down. It's a specialization culture. There was the lawn or helicopter parent, now there's the lawnmower parent, right? And I heard a thing the other day, we can't pave the jungle. And I think that sometimes our parents are out there trying to pave a path for our kids. And I think we have to remember that adversity is necessary. My own son had a couple experiences through his JV soccer season on his team. And I think those experiences, even though they could have classified as more of a negative experience, can be quite powerful and part of his growth and development. I want him to be treated unfairly. I want him to feel a little bit overlooked and have to earn a spot so that he can learn those important life lessons. And it's not easy to see as a parent to sit back and watch him, have an official make a really bad call, or a coach maybe put somebody in that is less deserving in my eyes. But I think that our kids need to have an unreasonable teacher from time to time. They need to have a moment where they're treated poorly, or someone, hurts their feelings, because that's what makes us stronger. And I think it's easy to lose sight of that because, they're our kids.
Man, there's so many thoughts there. And again, I've mentioned Jonathan Haidt's work, and that's the definitive work on what you're talking about. But I always frame it to parents like this. The first thing I do in a parent meeting or event or assembly is I always say to them, and I drag this one out, I won't drag it out here, but I always drag this one out and I say, how many years have you spent preparing for your career before you got your career? And the answer is 20 years. Elementary, middle school, high school, post, high school. Anyone's got 20 years into the preparation through their education before they get their job. And then I always say, what are the 5 most important things in your life? You're gonna say your kids, you're gonna say your spouse or significant other, and then you're gonna say your faith or your belief system. Now, I don't care what order you put them in. Your belief system may be more important to you than anything. Your spouse may be more important than your children. But let's just agree that for most people out there, those are gonna be your top 3. And when you get to 4, you're gonna say what your hobby is. Like, it might be boating, like it might be your hobby. It might be working out, it might be mountain climbing, whatever. And then when you get to number 5, you're gonna say your career. You're gonna, and maybe number 5 and 4 are the same. But there's everyone's top 5. Like, boom, got them. Now, you just sat there and told me that you put 20 years into preparing for your job before you got it. And then I always pause and I say, how many years did you spend preparing for number 1 on your list before you got it? And you can just see the look on someone's face. And I say, oh, you want me to answer this one for you? About 9 months. Now think deeply about that. You spend 20 years preparing for number 5. You spend about 9 months. Your kids are a science experiment. You're just experimenting on them. And I always point this out to young people. When they come to a parent assembly or presentation, I always turn to them real quickly and I say, take it easy on your parents. They have no idea what they're doing. And now that might be a little unfair. And then sometimes parents will even say, well, that's unfair, Tom. That's just what humans do. And I say, okay, whoa. What was number 4 on your list? Oh, boating? I'm like, how many blogs did you read on boating last year? How many videos did you watch? Did you get any coaching? And you can make this giant list, all of us can make this giant list of all the things in our lives that are number 4. Working out, wrestling for me. Like, I spent a tremendous amount of time watching video, getting coaching. And then I say, well, how many vlogs did you watch on parenting last year? How many videos did you watch? How many books did you read? And then like sheer embarrassment comes over most people, and I say, you know, we all know what the most important thing is, but we don't make it the most important thing. And I always tell parents, I say, you gotta make the most important thing the most important thing. I mean, you tell me you would die for your children, literally, would physically die for your kids, but you have no idea how to raise them. And that's why some of the work that we do with parenting is so powerful, because we have these light bulb moments for parents where they say, oh, I never thought about that. Well, and I always give parents at the end of that discussion a little gold star, and I say, well, you get a gold star for today because you're here. You're doing exactly what I just described. You're making the most important thing the most important thing. We spoke to 2,000 kids today, and there's 5 parents here. Crazy stuff.
And we don't like to consider ourselves parenting experts. I don't think we've even done that here today or tried to relay that message. But what we do like to do is shift perspectives on these roles that we have as a parent, as a teacher, as a sweetheart, as a hero. And I think that when we start talking about parenting, it's just simple perspective shifts. It's just elevated consciousness of the work that we're doing each day with our kids. And, you know, I think every kid has this blueprint that's within them. And as a parent, we have this agenda for them as soon as they're born. And we have this vision. And I know I talked about youth sports a bit, but we do it in academics as well. And, you know, but, you know, there's this stereotype where, you know, a doctor, the pediatrician will ask a kid what sports they play. You know, my question is, well, why do they have to play sports? There's other things that kids can do besides sports. But we have this belief that for a kid to be healthy when they visit the pediatrician, they should be involved in athletics. And I'm an athletics-based guy, but we don't need to impose this agenda. We have to kind of listen to them and become more aware and conscious of what they're telling us. And those are just those little shifts that I think parents can make. You know, there's some great work by Carol Dweck around the growth mindset. And that's, for me, one of my biggest pet peeves or areas that I spend a lot of time explaining to parents, because it's the opposite of a growth mindset is a fixed mindset. And I think if you really understand that on some level, it doesn't even have to be, you know, an intense understanding of it, but on some level, understanding that kids it's a process-based experience in whatever endeavor that they're in, not the product, not the valedictorian track or the A+ or the trophy or the ribbon, but it's the, you know, opportunity to go out and practice and participate and experience. And then your job is to nurture. Your job is to model behaviors. Your job is to show acceptance and patience and tolerance. And I think that those little shifts make the biggest difference.